Good morning, my name is Carla and you're watching episode 4 of Sew, Knit, Create and Repeat. Try and get that right this time. So today is the 1st of January 2022 and the reason why well, it's been a long time since I've recorded, but I don't know, life just gets in the way. So here we go. I've got probably quite a lot to talk about. It's lovely and quiet here this morning. Nobody's home and perfect opportunity. I'm rambling, sorry. I always get like this. You'd think you get a little bit better, but you don't. So I did write myself a very quick few notes because this was not planned, but this morning I watched one of my favourite knitting podcasts that I come across in the last month, and I binge watched all of her episodes, and that's Jana from Finished Knitting Stories, and I just thought, gosh, she can squeeze one in at the end of the year with a busy family, and you know, and she did Vlogmas as well. She did such a great job of that. I really enjoyed it. That I would, hey, I can do it too. So, first of all, welcome. If you're new and you're not going to find much structure happening here, I do follow the standard finished objects, WIPS, acquisitions, life story, you know, all life bits. But I am quite a muddly person and I do get a bit nervous. But anyway, I'm going to push on with this and we'll see how we go. I'm trying to look at the camera, so hopefully I'm looking at you. I can't tell because every time I look to check then I find I'm looking that way. And yeah, so just bear with me with that. So I'm coming to you from Aotearoa, which is the Māori name for the country I live in, which is New Zealand. And I come from a little area called Patutahi, which is just outside of Turanganui-a-Kiwa, which is the original name for Gisborne, which is on the east coast of the North Island of New Zealand. Yeah, that's me. That's where I'm from. See, told you I'd do this really muddly. First thing I'd like to do is to thank Sarah from TaylorMade Podcast. She's an Australian lady. Well, I think she'd consider herself Australian. She's been there long enough now. And she just made the most encouraging comments in the last couple of videos. I haven't had much engagement on these videos, but that's fine. I just thought, well, you know, if nobody watches them, then at least I have a visual log of what I've achieved in my crafting world. Yeah, so I'm going to start off with some finished objects. The first one is what I'm wearing. And this is, well, it's not the first finished object actually, but it's the first one I'll talk to you about. It's called the Strata top. And it's by Sew Liberated, which is a slow fashion indie pattern designer. And I've made quite a lot of their stuff, so I'll just show you. It's just a boxy tee, the slouchy shoulder, and I made it from this cotton muslin that I got from Backstreet Bargains. As you will notice, I tried to place the stripes so that the large stripes are over my very small breasts to make them bigger, and then smaller stripes over my tummy, which needs to be shrunken. It's a clever design, guys. The other finished object I have to show you, which is sewn related, and then the rest is knitting related. So these, you probably can't tell because the light is very bright in this room. I've had to shut curtains. the shorts, and I'll show you the cutouts. So they're made from a rayon, and they are called, just hang you back up there. So these were designed in conjunction with Pepperment magazine, and they're called the Skye shorts, and they were designed by Spoonflower. And so they're just a lovely skirt short style, and yeah, I think they look really nice. They've got an elasticated back and then a flat waistband. So I did find this fabric a little bit tricky to sew with. I've sewn with rayon for years, but I just kept shifting and stretching, so it was a little bit a bit annoying. So I had to do some manipulating just as well. I'm experienced with that. But the one I'm most proud of, the finished object I'm most proud of, I showed in episode 3 as a WIP. I was so close to finishing it. There was a long saga with trying to access more wool. I won't go into that too much because I mentioned it then, but the place where the wool originally came from came to the party, and it's finally finished. So this is, got a very catchy nail. It's catching on everything. This is the sheltered, it is the sheltered poncho. It's probably way too big to show on here, and I'm not putting it on because it's summer here in New Zealand and it's really hot. It has a cowl hood. That's the shape of the back hood. I found a couple of ends that I haven't trimmed, but it has been washed and blocked. It just hasn't been warm enough to wear it yet. And there's a bit of a funny story with this, because when I showed it the last time, I had joined the front and the back together, and I had picked up stitches around the neck, and I was creating the cowl part of the hood. And I had got to here when I did my stitch count just to where I was going to separate to work in the flat to do the hood. I found I had too many stitches, and the reason why was because on the back, you can see the shape of it there. So there's a at the front, you would, at the back and the front, there's a slip stitch line that runs down. At the back you were supposed to increase every other round or something like that, but I misread it and I was increasing on the front and the back, and so I had ended up making it this really funny shape that I was, and the worst bit was, where was I? Yeah, I thought I was going to be finished, and so I found myself on the Saturday at Speedway, because my partner races at Speedway, in the ute because it was a little bit nippy, trying to madly catch up, and I actually got to the point where I started working on the hood while I was at Speedway knitting in the ute. People were walking past going, "What's she doing?" And I'm really happy with it. This was, the reason why I love the look of a decent poncho. Oh yeah, this is by Andrea Mowry, sorry. But I do like to garden, and I do like having another layer that I can just chuck on that's nice and warm, but also because my partner's so involved with Speedway, the season goes from, say, September, October through to March, April, and the middle of the season's hot, but on either side is spring and autumn, and it can get quite cold at night. So it's quite nice just to have something that I can just throw on over the top of my clothes and carry on. So those are my finished objects. Now, I don't think there's anything else to say about them. I'm happy with them. I do, yeah. But the problem is since I've started watching knitting podcasts, I've ended up with so many WIPS. Like I've always been more of a monogamous person, even with my sewing. Like, you start your project, you finish it. And then I see it's actually okay to have multiple things on the go, which I like, because you know, sometimes you get bored knitting on the same thing, particularly if it's a large project. So I want to show you a WIP that has been going on for ages, mainly because I've knit 3 or 4 garments, and I've started a whole raft of other garments during that time. But I didn't show it the last couple of episodes because I figured, well, I haven't really been, it was sort of shelved and hadn't been getting worked on. But I have picked it up a few times. So I thought I'd show you my shawl, also by Andrea Mowry, called Brioche Licious, and I'll just show you the progress I've done on that one. So the thing with these shawls, they get the, you know, once again I'm halfway through a row. I did that last time. But that's half of it anyway, you can kind of see. It's very scrunchy. So I've used sort of a foresty green. You can't tell because the light's just terrible in here. A foresty green thread for the second colour, wool for the second colour there. Then there's a purple, eggplanty purple. And then this one's like a sea greeny blue. But yeah, you can't, it's not very good. But I've done from here to there, so I've done quite a lot, and there must be like 300 and or 400 stitches or something ridiculous on here now. I mean, that's doubled. Don't lose your stitches, Carla. But yeah, so I just thought I'd update you. It's just too warm, and it hasn't been as much of a priority. So that's that one in my bag. The next one that I've been, I forgot another finished object. I can't show you the original. I'll have to see if I can get a photo from my son. But last week before Christmas, I just quickly whipped up this hat for my son. It's a Joji Locatelli pattern. It's a free one. And for Christmas I had made, so I've got 2 daughters and a son, and my son's partner as well. So it was a fairly last minute Christmas, and I'd bought them all a little something each, and then yeah, a couple of little bits each, and then I made them face masks, and I also, the girls, I made scrunchies. I was going to make headbands, but I was literally finishing them off the day before Christmas Eve, and we were travelling from Gisborne to Wellington on Christmas Eve, so it wasn't going to get done. And I thought, well, my son, he could probably do with some headwear, but he's not going to want a scrunchie, even though his hair is quite long. So I thought I'd make him a beanie, because you know that's what you do at the last minute. So I made him that. So that was a finished object. I'll see if I can find a picture and insert it. So what was I talking about? Right, WIPS. Let's carry on with these WIPS. So let's pop that in there, otherwise we're going to be... So the next one I've been working on is the Frank shawl. I hadn't started this the last time I podcast. It's by another one by Joji Locatelli, and she just released it a couple of months ago. So I bought the pattern as soon as she released it. I just loved it. And I ordered, I think I spoke about this the last time in acquisitions, but I ordered Malabrigo Mechita from Wool Warehouse in the UK. And what I was explaining was I don't normally order that far away, you know, from overseas like that, but it was ridiculous how much cheaper it was to order from the UK, including shipping compared to buying it in my own country. So anyway, I ordered that, but there's a funny story with it. So here you go. It's not that funny. So I've knit one triangle, and I'm almost finished on the second triangle, which just let me dig it out. So this is, I'm tangled. Always happens, eh? Can't show you properly because it's too scrunched up. Here you go. There's the second triangle. So the way these work, let me just find a picture. Oh, here you go. So here's the front one. So I've knit that side, and I'm just about finished knitting that side, and then this triangle's a slightly different shape. So like it's wider. So she's done hers with like a white, light grey, and then a charcoal grey. And when I was looking at these yarns, I really struggled to get a gradient. So I tried to think creatively, and it's also really hard because these, you know, they can show you the picture on the website, but you can't see all the colours within the skein. So this was the one that I ordered for the, it's blowing out a little bit there, for the middle one, because on the picture it had a lot of rust and purple in it, and which you could see, but you couldn't see as much as the green and the blue that's in here. But that's fine. I decided I would wedge that between that and that because there's both colours are in it. And then I had a little a week or so ago, I had a little brain ripple. I had gone on Facebook, New Zealand, New Zealand destashes, knitting destashes, and this lady had put up 2 skeins of this, which is just beautiful. And these are from either the same kind of weight yarn. And I just bought them because I wanted them. I thought I'll make a shawl with them. And I had caked them up because I'd borrowed my partner's mum's windy thing. And they were sitting there, and I thought, actually, that would be, hang on, that would be a lovely graduation between the eggplant and the pearl. So I'm going to steal this one for the middle triangle, and the other one I can just, you know, those other 2 leftover skeins I can use for something else. I'll just make another shawl or something. But this is Dark Harbour yarn, which is a New Zealand indie dyer. And I think she's based in Wellington, which is at the bottom of the North Island. That's our capital. And that's her there. And of course I'd gone onto her website to see if she had more anyway, but obviously she does certain dye runs, and so she didn't. So this colour is called Shanty. So starboard is the type of it's a fingering 4-ply. So so anyway, I discovered her, and that was cool. So I know I'll go back, I'll probably buy more from her, but it's so pretty. It's just so pretty. So that's that. I think there's all. And of course I'm knitting these on metal needles, and it's quite slippery. I've never knit in a car, but I thought I'd take them with me to Wellington, and I was sitting in the back seat because my back was a bit sore, and my daughter was in the front with my partner. But New Zealand roads are bumpy and windy, well, at least where we live, and I can knit without looking, but when the road is real bumpy and you're sort of skipping around and carrying on, you really need to be looking at what you're doing. And if I look at what I'm doing when I'm travelling, I will get car sick. So that didn't really happen, but anyway, that's that. What have I done? Oh man, that's right, I'd lost some wool. So this next WIP I want to show you is this one. And I don't know whether I don't know how to actually say it. Is it Baltian or Baltian? By Caitlyn Hunter. And I just loved the way this looked. But I couldn't, you know, once again, New Zealand, we can't get the same fibres or yarns. So I had to make do. I went to the Skye's website and I found some sport weight yarn, wool that had the same meterage per 50 grams, 100 grams. And I've started making this. It's the first time I've done stranded colour work. It is puckering in some places but not in others, and I think it'll block out fine. I'm not going to go back. No way. But this is what I've done so far. I've given it a break over the last couple of weeks. And what I've done is, I didn't quite read the instructions, as I do this all the time. I didn't read the instructions properly for the type of yarn used, and it said with this colourwork part that you were holding 2 strands double. And so I ordered the 2 colours, and then I thought, shit, that's going to be really thick. And then I went back and had a look. It was the same brand as her main body colour, but it was like a mohair and 2 strands of mohair held double, and I didn't have any mohair. So what I did was I grabbed the grey, the brownie colour, fawny brown colour, and then I added it with some yarn that I'd got from a second-hand shop ages ago. They're in little mini skeins, but it's really fine. And I've added that, I've held that double, and it's given this really cool effect. So it's quite lovely. So I'm looking forward to that. I really wanted a nice bat wing jumper because, yeah, I'm looking at myself, not the screen again. I just love bat wing jumpers. I think yeah, that's my style. I really like that. So actually just pulling that out, it's got me all excited for it again. I think I was sort of lost interest a little bit because I kept thinking my floats might be too loose or too tight, and they will be because it's the first time I've done stranded colour work, but it's a learning experience, isn't it? What else have I got in my bag? This is sort of a WIP, but I don't know if it'll continue to be a WIP. I've never made socks before, and I keep buying sock patterns, and I thought, well, I'll try and make a pair of vanilla socks, and I've just got the crazy sock lady pattern, but I got hers to use magic loop, but I couldn't find any. So most of, I've got, just quickly move this to show you. These are not including, so these are not including the ones that are already on needles. I've got hundreds of circular needles that I've inherited from a couple of different people. And then I splashed out about 3-4 months ago, and I bought myself a Knit Pro Symphony set. But these sets don't come in the 0.25 increments, they come in the 0.5 increments. and so I think the smallest needle in here is probably like 3 or 3.5. It doesn't go anything under than that. So I went to my favourite little shop locally to have a little look at what she had, but the smallest she had was 3.25. I must have bought a second set of 3.5s. So 3.25s, and I got the shorties and the long. And then when I came back, I realised I really needed 2.25. So anyway, I have those spare. I'll use them. It's no big deal. And so I did have some 2.25 in but the cables too the cables are too stiff. Stiff is the word. And so magic looping, and I've never done magic loop before, it was creating too much of a stretch when I was trying to join in the round, and I was just ending up with this gaping stretch of yarn. So when I was in this yarn shop trying to see whether she had any 2.25s and blah blah blah, and she didn't, I found these, and I don't have the packet with me, but they are the double pointed needles, because I've got heaps of those as well, that have the flexible little bit of cable on them, and they seem to be fine. But I'm looking at this, like I measured my foot width to get the proper stitch count, and that probably go around my foot width, but I don't think that's going to go around my ankles, because I've got cankles. So I don't know, what do you do in that scenario where potentially your ankle is fatter than the width of your foot? Do I put on more stitches at the front and then taper down? So that's kind of stopped me, and I'm just using, I think this is a, no, it's not that one. I think it's just one of those Regia sock yarns, and I actually started this like 3 times, because the first couple of times I was like couldn't get that join right, and there was too much of a gap, and it was just really annoying me. And then when I actually opened up, when I took this off, I actually saw there was some writing inside the ball band, and it said that this yellow thread is just the starting one and to cut it off. And I was like, you're joking. I thought it might have been going to come up yellow at some stage within the, no. So that's my first attempt at a sock. I might get there at some stage. Yeah. And then the last whip, I really should have bought a drink of water in here, never mind. The last whip I have is, where are you? This has been planned for ages. So the company that I bought the wool for the poncho from, Black Hills Yarn, or Black Hills Wool, here they are here, from Canterbury and South Island of New Zealand. They were so helpful to me when I got that, had to source that other yarn. I decided I wanted to use the yarn to do this, the Weekender. And so this has been something that I've had this in my library for a little while. So I decided that I wanted to use one of the yarns, and so what I have is, colour is Medberry, and it is a It's a 10 ply weight. So that's it there. So I cast this on, what day are we now? Today's Saturday, so I think Wednesday I started casting this on. So it's a bit hard to see where I'm up to. So the interesting thing about this is that the main fabric is actually reverse stockinette, but she knows that most of us prefer to knit, so she gets you to knit in the round, and then you flip it out and you've got your right side. With knitting patterns, I like to, I think I've said this before, I like a challenge. I like to learn something new with every project that I do. So for example, with this one here, I was learning how to do stranded colour work. This one here, I'm not sure what I'm going to learn, but it's pretty. And I think there's some joining techniques that I'm probably going to be learning in this one. Because you keep those edge stitches of the triangles as live stitches, so I'm not sure how they're joined. So that's probably a technique that I'll be learning. I haven't gone ahead and had a look. What else is socks? You know, so I just want to learn new things. The Brioche Licious was me learning how to do brioche. So for this one here, they use, she gets you to do a tubular cast on. I can't say I enjoyed it, mainly because you kind of hold the yarn a little bit like a long tail, but you can't just put it down and walk away because it's just a series of twists. And I found that quite stressful, having to try and hold it and then go back and count, because I kept losing count. But it looks really nice, and I didn't make any mistakes, which was good, because I kept thinking, God, if I make a mistake I'm going to have to go all the way back and it's fiddly. But I didn't make any mistakes. So the tubular, oh, hang on a minute, don't want to lose stitches. So the tubular cast on is quite nice. I did find this a little bit confusing though, because she says, I think I may have made my ribbing in two bigger needles. She gives you two size needles, one for the ribbing, one for the body. And she says cast on using smaller needles, so you do that. And then you do your setup rows, and then it says continue, go up a needle size to continue ribbing. So you do that. And then it says go up needles, use larger needles for body. And I was like, you're joking. So that's like 3. So I don't know, I might be a bit confused. So yeah, so that's the one I've been working on the last few days. I did a little bit of the shawl last night, but yeah, it's just a change. And hopefully, because this wool is really, where is it? Oh, there. It's really inconsistent in its thickness. So you can see there, and then it just gets thinner and thinner. And then some bits, I don't know if I can show you. Like some bits are massively chunky. And I'm just worried how it's going to look. I'm hoping that once it's washed and blocked, the stitches will settle down. For example, I'll show you. So here you can see where it was just really thick, right? That's on the knit side. On the, when it comes up on the purl side, it's like big bumps. But hopefully it settles down. Surely it'll settle down. So you can see that, I mean, look how thick that piece is. It'll be a nice rustic jumper. Like I said, I didn't really write many notes, so this is well and truly a a throw together podcast episode. I think that's all my WIPS. I've just done a swatch test, which brings us into acquisitions and future objects. Look at this. Can you see? Now it's actually navy blue. It's called dark denim. So I've done a swatch test for this. And I've schooled myself up on alternating skeins to make, and I'll have to insert a picture because I don't have it printed off yet, to make the Ponderosa sweater by Wool and Pine Designs. I just love it. So I got this, and it is called, so I've got these. Yeah, the colour's blowing out. It's dark denim and it actually does look like dark denim. It's a 4-ply high twist merino, 400 metres to 100 grams. And it's only $30 a skein. So I thought that was alright for the type of stuff that you're looking at. And that's the place. So Kiwi Yana. And I think she's in Christchurch. And she included these gorgeous little progress keepers. Really simple, but I like them. So with each one, I got one of these. And no, my fingernails aren't dirty. The week before Christmas, I stained my back deck with charcoal oil base stain. So it went everywhere up my nails. So yeah, so that's exciting. So I've pretty much met gauge with that, but not so much for length. But I didn't think that would, so I got it for width, but not for length. But I think that'll be alright because you can just knit a little bit longer, can't you? And I'll just have to keep an eye on it for my sleeves and things like that. But I do love the fabric it makes. It's so pretty. It's really nice. Quite in love with that. I was pretty excited when that turned up. Other acquisitions and future plans. Actually wouldn't mind using that wool. There's a really cool cardigan that Joji Locatelli did quite a long time ago, I think, and I saw Amy Palco had made it, and it had like, doesn't have a button front, but it's just sort of like a angular. And I thought that would look quite nice and something like that. So I might have to get more of that type of yarn in a different colour or something. But I do like my dark colours. And that would be cool. So other future plans that I have is, forgive me if I showed you last time. I just can't remember. My brain, I have brain fog quite bad. But this is the Roseanne top by Fibre Mood. And it's so gorgeous, and I've got a lovely, and I don't know where I've put it, a lovely pink rayon, very soft pink rayon to make that in. And then I also have, where am I? Oh, that was what I think I might use the rest of that fingering yarn for. Quite pretty, eh? But so Nicole from Professor Pearl, she's a podcaster, she's going to do a knit along, or make along, sorry, so you could sew it or knit it or whatever, books and berets, and that starts, has it started yet? Maybe not yet, very soon. And so the idea is that you read a book and you make a beret at the same time. And she's got a suggested pattern and a suggested book. But she said you can, that's saying it's a suggested knitting pattern. So if you're not knitting, you're not going to use the same one anyway. but that wasn't accessible to me because I live in New Zealand, and the pattern was only available as a kit as far as I could believe. I'm pretty sure I double checked that. I tried to think, oh, see if yeah, that's right, because I tried to get the pattern, but it came as a wool kit from the States, and shipping to New Zealand during pandemic from the States in particular, other countries not so bad, it's always been expensive. I don't know why, but shipping from the United States has always been really expensive for us compared to other like Europe or the UK. But I think with the limited flights coming in and out of the country, shipping would be really delayed. So it just wasn't accessible for me to buy a kit with wool and a pattern. Pattern's fine, you can get a PDF and it just downloads. So I found this, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. So I thought I'd knit that one. And this is the actual book that Nicole suggested. So some of you may not know, I'm actually a qualified librarian, and I currently work in a school library. And I find that I don't get as much time for reading adult books because I've got to keep on top of young adult reads. So this is called Real Men Knit, and it's by a lady called Kwana Jackson. And it's not really the sort of thing I read. It looks a bit romancy, and I don't really read romance, but it'll be alright. You got to stretch yourself. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to read that and knit that for Nicole, who, by the way, is just such a lovely lady. And what else have I got as acquisitions? I've got a couple more things. So my partner's mother was sitting in the car. We had to drop Evan's work ute off at his mum and dad's place just before we headed down to Wellington. He didn't, because we live out in the country, he didn't want it sitting in the driveway. Someone could just break into it and steal all his tools, so we dropped it off on our way out of town to his mum and dad's because they're always home. And I was in the car and I was showing, I think Evan decided he needed to go to the toilet because, you know, you always do. And I was talking to his mum and I was showing her my shawl project and saying how I'd brought it with me and I was going to try and knit it, which I hardly ever did. And she gave me this. And it's actually quite cool. It did get a little bit caught, but she said you just put your ball of wool in there. But yeah, I found mine was just getting, I think it'd be different if you had a cake of wool and then you were pulling it from the centre, but I don't actually pull from the centre because I don't like squishy cakes of wool. And the other thing she got me, she bought me a Christmas present, and because I'd come over to see her the week before Christmas and she hadn't wrapped it yet, she just decided to heck with wrapping. She's just going to give it to me early, which I thought was quite cool. So she got me this, which is quite cool. I think I will use it. I've got my knitting needles in a wrap case that I made, but it's just such a sweet idea. And look, it's got little sheep on it. And she also gave me, where did I put it? Oh, this. Right. And I've been wanting to make, because I'm a bit crafty, and I thought I'd make some progress keepers, and I haven't got around to making some. So these have got these little, hang on, hold on, these little sheep progress keepers. There's a couple of different, that one there's got slightly, he's got springier wool happening on him. And what was so funny is that I've been watching, and I'll talk about this shortly anyway, Yana from Finished Knitting Stories, and I've been watching her Vlogmas, and she was taking us through Like one day she was at work and she owns a yarn store, and she picked up this tin and showed the things, and I was like, I just got that today. I had to comment, I had to say to her, oh, I've just been given the same little tin all the way in New Zealand. DMC, it's everywhere. So yeah, that's my funny little story about that. And I also got gifted by her, just because she had it in her house, this, which to be honest, I'd never knit something for myself just even in these colours. They're not my cup of tea. Beautifully soft, but it is 100% acrylic, which I've actually never knit with acrylic because I'm a bit of a snob. However, I do have friends with babies and little kids, so I thought perfect for just, you know, people that, one of my friends, she's got a little one, and she did say that someone knitted something for it and she was absolutely petrified of washing it because she was afraid she was going to wreck it. So at least this way you wouldn't be afraid of wrecking it, eh? So Izzy might end up with a little cardie or something from Auntie Carla. And I think, I'm just trying to check, I think that's all from acquisitions. So I just wanted to share a little bit, a book I'm reading, and then we'll talk about some life stuff, and then you're out. I'm not doing too bad. So a couple of episodes ago, I can't remember when, I showed a book called Love Stories by Trent Dalton that I'd bought for myself. I haven't read it. But while I was at my sister's for Christmas, she had this on her bookshelf. It's also by Trent Dalton, and it looked really interesting. It's called All Our Shimmering Skies. I've got that much left. It's set in Australia. Well, I think he's Australian. It's set in Darwin in 1942. And it's based around this little girl who was a gravedigger's daughter. She sees the world in a really, really interesting way. And she looks to the sky to give her gifts. Anyway, she ends up trying to run away to escape the bombing of Darwin. And goes on a little quest. Takes with her abusive uncle's girlfriend. And then they come across a Japanese fighter pilot who's tried to, I think he tried to commit suicide by crashing into a hill and then ended up ejecting by parachute, and so they become unlikely companions in their little trip. It's a really, really neat story. But it's beautiful. It's a really beautifully written story. So I can really recommend that. I'm just about done, and I haven't read an adult book for ages. Yeah. So that's about it. I've got some podcast recommendations. So what I've written down is, these are people that I've only just discovered over this sort of vlogmas period. Amy Palco from The Meaningful Stitch. I think I saw somebody on Instagram that I follow who's a knitter shared that they were watching her in their stories, and I thought, that lady looks interesting, so I looked her up. I looked up her first episode, and she introduced it by pulling out an oracle card, and I was like, oh yeah, she's my type of people. I have numerous oracle cards in my collection. So I was like, I like this chick, and she's just got a beautiful, her hair is gorgeous. I mean, I know you don't watch people because of the hair, but yeah, her hair was absolutely good, and she just had a very lovely, gentle way of being. Kat Kelly Crafts, I got into watching her because I think I was looking at Vlogmases and her ISA vlog came up. and I quite enjoy watching her. But my absolute favourite that I discovered was Jana from Finish Knitting Stories. Oh, she is such a cool lady. I really, really like her. I wish I could meet her. She's really nice, and it sounds like she's been through some struggles. And so I saw her probably about 3 days into Vlogmas, because I just looked up knitting Vlogmas because I was running out. And because sometimes you look up knitting podcasts and you just get the same ones coming up and you don't get the new ones coming up. So I thought Vlogmas might help. So that came up. I watched about 2 minutes of her Vlogmas and I thought, oh, that looks good. So I stopped, I looked up her channel, and then I went back and I binge watched all her episodes, and then I started catching up with the Vlogmas at the same time. And I just really, 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 really like her. And she just did one this morning, which is what prompted me to just hurry up and get back on. I always think, you know, maybe I'd get my room set up a little bit better, and maybe I might try to put some makeup on my face and make myself look all lovely like these ladies do. But it's just too much faffing about. If I'm in the mood, I've got to do it. And that's just that. So those are my podcast recommendations. Give those a go. They're really, really good. And actually, talking about podcasters, so many podcasters that I've been watching just over this Christmas period, particularly with Vlogmas, have caught COVID. And I guess it just feels really strange because where I live, we've had very, very limited cases. We're quite an isolated area. And New Zealand, compared to other countries, we haven't had the same volume of cases because we're an island or a set of islands, and we've just closed our borders and tried to ride it out. But I think Ollie and Bella, so that lady, is it Cherie? She went off because one of her kids has COVID, and I don't know, they probably all got it. When I started watching Kat Kelly, it was because she was doing an ISA vlog because they had COVID in their house. Then I quite often watch, and she's another recommendation, is Leslie Friend from A Friend to Knit With. I've been meaning to add her to my list. She's really neat to watch, and she mentioned that she'd had COVID in the last few weeks. And then while she was doing her podcast, Kelly from that Rayon and Cade's podcast, I think she was like in day 5 or something like that, she tested positive for COVID, and she carried on doing her vlog, which was just amazing because the poor girl looked so sick. And then who else? Oh, I just watched Rebecca from the Crayabaya podcast yesterday, and she just said, oh, I've been 10 days clear from having COVID. And then I feel like there was somebody else. It was just weird. It was just like they've all been perfectly fine, and then boom, 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 over. And maybe it's because it's winter in their areas. So yeah, Leslie's in the States, it's winter there and it's winter over there, and it's colder, and I think the virus tends to thrive better in the cold. It was a bit bizarre. But anyway, life stuff, everything's just cruising along here. The week before Christmas, I had actually bought some decking stain a couple of months ago. I purchased my first water blaster because I used to always have to borrow a water blaster, a jet washer, yeah, for cleaning the house. And I really, really wanted to own my own, and I was going to need one to get all the crud off the old deck and restain it. And I bought that as a project because I was fairly convinced that we were going to go into lockdown again, but we didn't. So the week before Christmas, Monday, I water blasted the the back deck and also the walls on 2 of the walls of the house, because the other 2 had only done a month ago. And which it was quite a major job because I haven't done it for ages with my fatigue. I just haven't done anything like that for a long time. And I was trying to get the worst of the old stain off. So the old stain was just a really, it was green. It wasn't very nice. It wasn't even a nice green. And I'd chosen a charcoal. So I just wanted a nice clean colour. So I bought all that, so I thought, yep, so water blast one day and stain the next. And you can buy these extendable poles with like a mop pad on it that you can just dip into the stain and just mop your deck. But the way our deck has been made, anyone living in the southern hemisphere, like Australia and New Zealand, will know this. So you can get these decking timbers and one side will be flat and smooth and the other side is ridged. Now the ridged side's supposed to go underneath, and there's a reason for it. Can't be something to do with water or whatever, but I don't know, for years you just see people, they put the ridge side up because they think it's good anti-slip. But what actually happens is those little ridges start to splinter. They start to splinter and they hold water and just a whole lot of other stuff. So yeah, our deck was constructed like that, not by us. So you can use the mop on it, but it only hits the high spots and the ridges it wasn't catching. So the second day, I only had half a day to do it because the sun was coming over the house, and once it came over the house, you can't do it. Well, A, I was going to get fried in the sun, but B, you don't want to be putting decking stain onto a deck in the sun. It'll just go off before it soaks in. So I had limited time, so I knew I was going to have to brush it. So I was up at 6 in the morning the following day with my brush, and I did all the edges again, and then I just started at the steps and then up, and then I was just going maybe 4 or 5 planks wide and then just going across the length. And I was broken for about probably till Monday this week. Sorry, I've got hiccups now. So it was a lesson learned. Could never understand it, but yeah, I now know the reason why I feel like that when that happens, but I still think it was worth it. And I've bought myself a treat. I bought myself some more outdoor furniture to put on there, but it hasn't arrived yet. So yeah, I just want things to look nice. We were looking at buying a property a little bit further out from where we are, and it was a tender process, and we got right to the last minute and we changed our mind, decided that it wasn't the way to go for us. The banks were happy to lend us the money, but we just decided we didn't want that level of debt at this time when the prices are so high at the moment. Something's got to give. So we just resolved ourselves that we would spend a bit more time and money and thought into making this little cottage work for us. Space is an issue, so it's about being creative with our space. And we're on a fairly decent sized section, so there's plenty of scope. My son is an architect student, so when he comes up in February, we're going to get him to, thought it might help him actually, and he's keen to do it anyway, but to at least look at our outside area, and we'll be the clients, and we'll get him to draw us up something, a plan of how that meets our needs and wants for our outdoor living, and then he can we can document that with photos and send them to him, and then if he has an assessment where he needs to design a concept, and then from start to finish, then he's got evidence that he's done the design plan, so that might be quite helpful for him. What else do we have happening? Our cat's still hanging in there. He's got a tumour behind his eye. It hasn't been very nice, but he's not in pain that I can see. He still plays and stuff. It's just sometimes you hear he gets a bit snuffly because he's because it's growing in here. So I don't think he'll be with us for much longer. I'm just trying to think of, it's easy to talk about knitting and sewing and things, but to talk about your life. I've been struggling a little bit. 2021 was a very, very, very hard year. I thought 2020 was a hard year. I've mentioned this before, but my mother was diagnosed with, so my mum was diagnosed with lung cancer in December 2019. Sorry, I had to take a break for a second. I just still find it quite hard. And then a couple of months later, my partner had a stem 4 heart attack. And he's 37 now, so he was 35 when that happened, and too young. So we had a lot of drama with that, because it should have, if he'd been older, it would have killed him. But he actually was quite fit and healthy. Other than that, just had an undiagnosed condition happening to do with his liver doesn't produce any good cholesterol, so his cholesterol levels were actually a lot higher than what they thought. His dad has the same thing, and so does his dad's dad died at the age of 49 from a heart attack as well. And so anyway, I know I waffle. So 2020 was a year, but you know, I think when you have that much on you, you just push on. It's stressful, but you just push on. It's kind of like you're just living, you're walking in a perpetual state of shock, so you're coping. And then when we lost Mum, it was a relief because she wasn't in pain anymore. And as her oldest, I was given the task of being the executor to her estate, and that was a lot of work. So January 2021, we handed the keys over of her house to someone else, and the estate was wound up. And then from that point onwards, my life fell apart. So 2020 was the year of the stink shit happening, and 2021 was the fallout. And I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which was a bit dumb because it was something I've been coping with, or struggling coping, for quite a few years. But obviously with the stress, the symptoms had got quite bad, and I needed some answers, and that was the answer they gave me. So it's been quite a hard thing to adjust to, because you're learning new ways to do things, but I'm also determined not to let it dictate how I live. And then I get frustrated because I'm still trying to do things my own way, and there's consequences to pay for that. So if I go for a walk in the morning, the rest of the day is buggered. But I'm putting on weight, and I don't want to put on weight. And if I stay in my deck and do have 3 days of working hard, I've got a whole week where my whole body just feels like it's falling apart. I hope it's not too dark. I'm kind of looking into my window, and I think the glare is making my eyes look dark when I look back at the camera. Anyway, 2021 was a hard year, and I acknowledge that there's probably a level of depression to go with that, and the grief and frustration. So knitting has been a saviour, because if your body's sore and you're aching and you've been told that you have to rest, you can still be productive. And other people podcasting has just been wonderful. Making connections, having these really cool conversations with people. So 2022, I'm not crying, my eyes are itchy. 2022 is going to be a fantastic new year. We're all going to have a great new year. I don't care what anyone says. And lots of great things are going to happen. So if there is somebody out there watching, I wish you well for 2022. And if you are watching, say hi. So thank you. I've been talking for over an hour, I think, now, once I take this little video on. And I'm going to have a little bit of a clean up because I've got a bit of a mess around me now. I'll show you in a second. And yeah, get this mess organised and carry on with my day. So thank you for watching. I've probably forgotten lots of things, but it is what it is. I can talk about it next time. I just have to get my finger out of my bum, and that wasn't a very nice thing to say, was it? No, I might cut that bit out. So yeah, thank you. I wish you well. You come watch me, man. It's so funny. Oh, this is the one he was after. Oh, this is the one he was staring at. Was it? Yeah. It's funny how he used to play prof and splits it off to this one. Oh, wow. Oh, this one's gonna die quickly. Oh, baby. I love how he brings it back to his bed. Yeah, I know. So, safe zone. No one's gonna take it off me. Put it down. What? Hey. Are you gonna share?